The rain that changed everything. The conference room falls silent as my attorney slides a single photograph across the mahogany table. I watch my husband Marcus's face drain of all color, his expensive suit suddenly looking 2 sizes too large on his trembling frame. His lawyer reaches for the photo, and I see the exact moment recognition hits. Her hand freezes mid-air, her mouth forming a perfect O of shock. "Where did you get this?" Marcus's voice cracks, nothing like the confident, dismissive tone he used 3 months ago when he locked me out of our house in the pouring rain. I don't answer. I simply nod to my attorney David Chen, who presses play on the tablet in front of him. Marcus's own voice fills the room, crystal clear, discussing how he'd been siphoning money from our joint accounts for 18 months, how he'd convinced our marriage counselor, his affair partner, to document false evidence of my mental instability, how they'd planned to have me declared unfit, take full custody of our daughter Emma, and leave me with nothing. Marcus lunges forward, trying to grab the tablet, but hotel security steps between us. His lawyer is already gathering her files, her face pale. She knows what I know. This recording alone is enough to destroy him. But I'm not finished. Play the rest, I say calmly. David swipes to the next file. Security camera footage from the Riverside Hotel, time stamped and dated. Marcus and Dr. Patricia Reeves, our marriage counselor, checking in together. Not once, not twice, 17 separate occasions over the past year, each date perfectly corresponding to our emergency counseling sessions that I paid for with my inheritance money. Patricia makes a sound like a wounded animal. She's sitting in the corner, no longer my therapist but a defendant in her own right. The psychology board representative beside her is taking notes furiously. "That's not," Marcus starts. "Not what?" I lean forward, and for the first time in our 12-year marriage, I see fear in his eyes. "Not the Cardi bracelet I watched you give her. Not the vacation to Bali you claimed was a work conference. Not the 340,000 you transferred from the trust my father left me." The number hangs in the air. His lawyer closes her briefcase with a sharp click. "Mrs. Morrison," she says quietly, "I need to speak with my client privately." "No." Marcus's voice is desperate now. "Elena, please. We can work this out. Think about Emma. Think about our family." I think about Emma. I think about our 8-year-old daughter who cried herself to sleep for a week after Marcus told her mommy was sick and needed to go away for a while. I think about how she was allowed to call me, how he screened every communication, how he told our friends and neighbors I'd abandoned my family. I think about the rain. But let me tell you how this all started. Because the woman sitting in this conference room with a 12 million lawsuit and ironclad evidence isn't the woman I was 3 months ago. That woman was drowning. That woman had given up. That woman stood in the rain believing she'd lost everything. Before the story begins, please leave us a comment telling us which state or city you are watching from. Don't forget to like and subscribe so this channel can grow and bring you more exciting stories. To understand how I got here, how I went from begging on my knees in the rain to watching my husband's entire world collapse, I need to take you back to where it all began. That morning started like every other morning in our home had started for the past 5 years. I woke at 5:30, before the sun rose, before Marcus's alarm, before Emma needed to be roused for school. The house was still dark as I moved through it, my feet knowing every creaking floorboard, every corner, every path from bedroom to kitchen. I dressed in the same outfit I wore most days, simple jeans and a cotton sweater, nothing expensive, nothing that drew attention. Marcus preferred it that way, he'd said over the years. "You're a mother now, Elena. You don't need to dress up." His words, spoken so reasonably, had become my uniform. The kitchen was cold. Marcus had stopped paying for the heating to be fixed properly 6 months ago, claiming we needed to watch our spending. Though his own closet had acquired 3 new suits in that time, I'd learned not to mention these things. Learned to just pull on a cardigan and keep quiet. Eggs cracked into the pan with a soft sizzle. Toast browning. Coffee brewing, the expensive kind Marcus insisted on. From a boutique roaster downtown, I'd switched to generic instant for myself months ago. Another small economy. Another thing that didn't matter until you added it to the 1,000 other things that didn't matter, and suddenly you realized you'd disappeared entirely. Emma's lunch was already packed. Turkey sandwich with the crusts cut off, apple slices, carrot sticks, the chocolate chip cookies I'd baked Sunday night after she'd gone to bed. A note tucked inside with a heart drawn in purple marker, her favorite color. "Have a great day, sweetheart. Love, Mommy." Marcus appeared at 6:45 exactly, dressed in his charcoal suit, the one that cost more than our monthly grocery budget. He didn't look at me as he sat down, didn't acknowledge the plate I set in front of him. The coffee poured exactly how he liked it, 2 sugars, splash of cream. Emma's project is due Friday, I said quietly, refilling his cup. She needs poster board and markers. He scrolled through his phone. Fine. I'll need money for, use the household account. His voice was flat, dismissive. The household account that had $43 in it because he'd stopped making deposits 3 weeks ago. But I didn't say that. I'd learned what happened when I questioned Marcus about money. The cold silence. The implied accusations about my spending. The suggestion that if I wanted more money, maybe I should get a job, even though he'd been the one who insisted I stay home with Emma, who'd argued against every attempt I'd made to return to teaching. He left without kissing me goodbye, left without asking about my day, about Emma's upcoming parent-teacher conference, about anything. The door closed behind him at 7:15, and I stood in our kitchen, surrounded by everything I'd built, the home I'd made beautiful on a shoestring budget, the breakfast dishes I'd washed before Emma woke, the lunch I'd made with love, and felt absolutely nothing. We'd been married 12 years, together for 14. I'd met Marcus the summer after I graduated with my teaching degree. He'd been charming then, attentive, full of plans for our future. He'd worked in finance, made good money, and when he proposed after 8 months, I'd said yes without hesitation. Emma came 3 years later, and that's when things began to shift. Subtly at first, he'd suggest I take extra maternity leave, then maybe just 1 more year at home while Emma was so small. Then prep school was so expensive. Wouldn't it make more sense for me to stay home? Before I knew it, 5 years had passed, and my teaching certification had lapsed. You'd have to retake courses, Marcus had said not unkindly. Is it really worth it? We're financially stable. Emma needs you. So I'd stayed. And slowly, so slowly I hadn't noticed it happening, I'd become invisible. In our marriage, in our home, even to myself, Marcus had grown colder year by year. The affection drained away like water through cupped hands. He worked late, came home tired, spent weekends on his phone or at the office. When I'd suggested marriage counseling 6 months ago, I'd been surprised when he agreed immediately. Dr. Patricia Reeves had seemed wonderful at first, warm, understanding, with an office full of soft lighting and comfortable chairs. I can see you're struggling, Elena, she'd said in our first session. It's clear you're carrying a lot of anxiety. And somehow, over the weeks that followed, every session became about my anxiety, my inability to handle stress, my tendency to catastrophize about money and Marcus's long hours. Marcus would sit beside me, nodding seriously, while Patricia gently pointed out my patterns of negative thinking. I'd believed her. God help me, I'd believed I was the problem. That morning, after Marcus left, I woke Emma with kisses and helped her dress in the outfit she'd picked out the night before, purple leggings and a unicorn shirt. We ate breakfast together, her chattering about her best friend Sophia and the science project and could we please get a hamster. We'll see, baby, I said. The universal parent answer that meant probably not. I walked her to the bus stop 3 blocks away, holding her hand, breathing in the strawberry scent of her shampoo. She kissed my cheek before boarding, her backpack nearly as big as she was, and waved from the window until the bus turned the corner. I walked home alone, and I had no idea that in 3 hours, my entire life would detonate. The process server arrived at 11:30. I was folding laundry in the living room, matching Emma's tiny socks when the doorbell rang. A woman in her 40s stood on my porch, professional but not unkind. Alana Morrison. Yes, you've been served. She handed me a manila envelope, thick and official looking, and left before I could ask any questions. My hands shook as I opened it. The law firm's name was embossed across the top in gold lettering, Whitmore & Associates. Expensive. The kind of firm Marcus's company used for major deals. The first page made my vision blur. Pico var, des saludo and ofmariag. Marcus was divorcing me. I sat down hard on the couch, the papers spilling across my lap. The words swam together and separated, each one a knife, irreconcilable differences, separation of assets, custody arrangement. My breath came faster as I read the section about Emma. Marcus was seeking full physical custody with supervised visitation for me. Supervised, as if I were dangerous, as if I couldn't be trusted alone with my own daughter. The grounds listed made my blood turn to ice water. Mother's increasing mental instability and inability to provide stable home environment. Professional documentation of anxiety disorder and erratic behavior. Father believes daughter's well-being requires primary custody with monitored contact with mother. Professional documentation. Patricia, our marriage counselor. She documented me as unstable. Every session where she'd focused on my anxiety. Every time she'd suggested I might be overthinking things. Every concerned look when I'd expressed worry about Marcus's distance. She'd been building a case against me. But the financial pages were worse. So much worse. Marcus was claiming that all marital assets should remain with him because they were primarily funded by his income. The house my father's life insurance insurance money had put the down payment on, was listed as his separate property. Our joint savings account of 127 zillows and his separate property. Even the car I drove titled in both our names his separate property. What I was entitled to, according to these papers, was 20,000 as a generous settlement given the wife's lack of financial contribution to the marriage. $20,000 for 12 years of my life, for raising our daughter, for managing our home, for sacrificing my career, for making his life possible. $20,000. And then I saw the date at the bottom of the filing. The papers had been prepared 6 weeks ago. 6 weeks ago, while I was still sleeping beside him every night, still making his breakfast every morning, still believing we were going to counseling to save our marriage. This had been planned. My phone rang. Marcus's name lit up the screen. You got the papers. His voice was businesslike, as if he were calling about a conference room booking. Marcus, what is this? What's happening? It's happening. Alina, I'm done. We're done. I need you out of the house by 5 o'clock today. Out of the Marcus. This is my home. Emma's home. You can't just read Section 7. I've been granted temporary emergency custody due to concerns about your mental state. A judge signed off this morning. You have until 5 to collect your personal belongings and leave. The room tilted. You can't do this. I'm her mother, and I'm her father, and I actually have the means to support her. What do you have, Elena? No job, no income, no prospects. You've been living off my salary for years. I stayed home because you wanted me to. I gave up teaching because you said. You gave up teaching because you couldn't hack it. Let's be honest. His voice turned cold in a way I'd never heard before, like he was a stranger. You were mediocre at best, and you used Emma as an excuse to quit. Well, I'm not funding your lack of ambition anymore. Tears burned my eyes. I love our daughter. I'm a good mother. Patricia's clinical notes say otherwise. They say you've exhibited signs of severe anxiety, paranoid thinking, and emotional instability. They say Emma would be better off with me as primary caregiver. Patricia, understanding hit me like a fist. You're sleeping with her. Silence. Then a laugh. I'm in love with her, Elena. Have been for over a year. She understands me. She makes me feel alive. You just make me tired. The words should have hurt more than they did. Instead, I felt strangely numb, like I was floating somewhere above my body, watching this happen to someone else. The house. I whispered. My father's money bought this house. Your father's money made the down payment 7 years ago. I've paid every mortgage payment since. My name is on the title. It's mine. Everything is mine. And if you try to fight this, I will bury you in legal fees you can't afford, and I will make absolutely certain you never see Emma again without a court-appointed supervisor present. Marcus, please. 5 o'clock. Alina, don't make me call the police. He hung up. I sat there, phone in my hand, papers scattered around me, and tried to understand what had just happened. Tried to comprehend how the man I'd married, the father of my child, the person I'd trusted most in the world, could do this. What I didn't know was that he'd already changed the locks. I found out at 3:30 when I tried to go back inside after checking the mailbox. My key slid into the lock and turned, but the door didn't open. A deadbolt I'd never seen before held it shut. I rang the doorbell, knocked, called Marcus's phone. It went straight to voicemail. Called again, and again. Finally, at 4 o'clock, a locksmith's van pulled up. A young guy in coveralls got out, looking uncomfortable. Mrs. Morrison, I'm supposed to give you these. He handed me 3 cardboard boxes and 2 garbage bags. Your husband said these are your personal items. I looked at the boxes. My clothes, the few I had been thrown in without folding. My toiletries in a plastic grocery bag. Some books. The jewelry box my mother had given me. Everything I owned in the world packed like trash. My photos, I said, off Emma, her baby book. Where? This is what he gave me, ma'am. I'm sorry. The locksmith left. I stood on the sidewalk in front of the house I'd lived in for 7 years, holding boxes, and watched the sun begin to set. Neighbors were starting to come home from work. Janet from across the street slowed her car as she pulled into her driveway, staring. 2 houses down, I saw Mike Chen pause while getting his mail, phone in his hand. Was he taking a picture? The humiliation washed over me in waves. Everyone would know by tomorrow. Alina Morrison, thrown out of her house. Elena Morrison, who couldn't keep her husband. Alina Morrison, whose daughter had been taken away. I loaded the boxes into my car, a 10-year-old Honda Civic that needed new brakes and made a grinding sound when I turned left. The bags went in the back seat. Everything I had in the world fit easily. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Patricia and I are picking Emma up from school. Don't try to contact her. The custody order is enforceable immediately. I typed back with shaking hands. Please let me talk to her. Please let me explain. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then, you'll see her at the supervised visits. If you qualify for them, if I qualify. As if I were a criminal. I sat in my car in front of my house as the sun set, trying to think. I had nowhere to go. My parents were dead. Dad from a heart attack 5 years ago. Mom from cancer 2 years before that. I had no siblings. My friends friends were all Marcus's friends, couple friends, people I'd lost touch with as I'd shrunk into the narrow confines of my marriage. I checked my bank account on my phone. The joint checking showed $127.34. He'd been telling the truth about the account being drained. I clicked over to my personal savings account, the one I'd kept from before we were married. A 6 loa C. My blood ran cold. I called the bank's customer service line, was transferred 3 times, finally got someone who could help. Yes, Mrs. Morrison. That account was closed this morning by your husband. He's listed as co-owner, so he had the legal right to. So owner. I opened that account when I was 23. He shouldn't be on it. I'm showing he was added 4 years ago. You both would have had to sign, I remembered. 4 years ago, refinancing the house. Marcus had said we needed to simplify our accounts for the paperwork, add each other to everything for estate planning purposes. I'd signed without reading carefully, trusting him completely. He'd stolen my safety net 4 years ago in preparation for this. How much was in the account? I asked, though I already knew. I'd been adding to it for years, small amounts Marcus never noticed. My emergency fund, my someday I'll need this money. The final balance was a $43,750. Transferred out at 9:15 this morning. I hung up and vomited in the bushes next to my car, the $43,750. Every penny I'd managed to save. Gone. I tried my credit cards. Both declined. Checked online, both accounts closed that morning. The balances paid off and accounts terminated. Marcus's name had been on those too. I had $127.34 to my name, 3 boxes of belongings, a car I couldn't afford to put gas in, and a daughter I couldn't even call. The rain started at 6 o'clock, light at first, then heavier until it was coming down in sheets. I couldn't afford a motel. Even a cheap one would take most of my cash, and then what would I do tomorrow? I couldn't drive far without gas money. I stayed in my car, parked 2 blocks from the house, so Marcus wouldn't call the police for trespassing. The rain hammered on the roof. Water leaked in through a seal around the passenger window, dripping onto the seat. I thought about calling the police myself, about telling them I'd been locked out of my home illegally. But Marcus had a court order. He had documentation from a licensed therapist about my mental instability. He had money for lawyers. What did I have? Nothing. I pulled one of the garbage bags into the front seat and found my warmest sweater. I wrapped myself in it and cried until I couldn't cry anymore, until my throat was raw and my head pounded and the windows were fogged with my breath. At some point, I fell asleep. When I woke, it was 2 in the morning. I was shivering with cold and my phone was dead. The worst was yet to come. 3 days passed in a blur of survival. I slept in my car in different parking lots, moving each night so no one would notice. I used the bathroom at a 24-hour diner, bought a cup of coffee that I nursed for hours so I could sit in the warmth. I spent $3 on a phone charger at a gas station and charged my phone in the diner, checking obsessively for messages from Emma that never came. I tried calling Marcus's mother, desperate. She'd always been kind to me, but when she answered, her voice was cold. Elena, Marcus told me everything. How you've been struggling. How Patricia documented your mental health issues. I think it's best for Emma if you take some time to get help. That's not true. None of that is true. He's lying. Don't call here again. You need professional help, dear. She hung up. He'd gotten to everyone first, shaped the narrative, made me the crazy, unstable wife who'd cracked under the pressure of motherhood. I tried calling Patricia Reeves's office, was told she was no longer my care provider and couldn't speak to me. I tried calling the lawyer listed on Marcus's divorce papers, but they wouldn't talk to me without my own attorney present. And how could I hire an attorney with 89 to my name? On the 4th night, sitting in my car behind a closed grocery store, eating a package of store brand crackers for dinner, I thought about giving up, just signing whatever papers Marcus sent me, taking the $20,000, disappearing. Emma would be better off without a mother who couldn't even keep a roof over her own head, right? My hand moved to the glove compartment, where I'd shoved all the papers from the manila envelope, not wanting to look at them. I pulled them out now, thinking I'd find the section about where to sign, how to surrender. Something fell out from between the pages. A business card, old and bent, that had been stuck to one of the sheets. Chi Ann Legale Associates. David Chen, attorney at law, family law, the estate planning, my father's attorney. Dad had given me this card years ago, when he'd updated his will after Mom died. Just in case you ever need legal help. Sweetheart, David's a good man. I stared at the card in the dim light from the grocery store's security lamp. It was nearly 11 o'clock at night. Too late to call. But I saved the number in my phone anyway. A tiny spark of something that wasn't quite hope, but wasn't complete despair either. What I didn't realize was that my father, brilliant and protective even from beyond death, had left me more than just a lawyer's business card. I called David Chen's office at 9 o'clock the next morning, sitting in my car in the diner's parking lot expecting nothing. Chen Legal Associates. A warm voice answered. This is Maria? Hi, my name is Elena Morrison. My father was Richard Sawyer. He gave me this number and my voice cracked. I need help. Richard Sawyer's daughter. Her voice changed, became urgent. Hold please. I waited, confused. Hold music played. Then a man's voice came on the line. Elena, this is David Chen. Are you safe right now? Where are you? The kindness in his voice made tears spring to my eyes. I'm in my car. I've been sleeping in my car. My husband, I know, I don't know what's happened, but I need you to come to my office immediately. Can you do that? I don't have money for a lawyer. I don't have money for anything. Elena, listen to me very carefully. Your father retained me years ago with specific instructions regarding you. There are things you don't know about. Please come to the office. I'm texting you the address right now. My phone buzzed with his message. The office was downtown, a 30-minute drive. I'll come now, I said. I used the last of my quarters to buy enough gas to get there. David Chen's office was in a glass tower that made me feel even more bedraggled and out of place. I caught sight of myself in the lobby windows, hair unwashed for days, clothes wrinkled from sleeping in them, dark circles under my eyes. I looked exactly like the unstable woman Marcus claimed I was, but the receptionist, Maria, greeted me with warmth and no judgment. Alana, come with me. David's waiting. She led me to a corner office with a view of the city. David Chen stood as I entered, a man in his 60s with silver hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Alana. He came around the desk and shook my hand. I'm so sorry about Richard. He was a good man and a good friend. Thank you. I sat in the chair he indicated and everything just spilled out. Marcus, the divorce papers, the custody claim, Patricia's documentation, being locked out, the stolen money, all of it. David listened without interrupting, taking notes. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Lina, he said finally, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Do you have access to any accounts or assets that your husband might not know about? No. He took everything. Even my personal savings account that I had before we were married. Did your father ever give you anything? A card, a key, a code? Maybe something you didn't understand at the time. I shook my head. Just his life insurance money, but that went into the house down payment. All of it. I stopped. What do you mean? Your father's life insurance policy. Do you remember how much it was for? $500,000. And how much went to the house? $80,000 for the down payment. David opened a file on his desk. Elena, your father's life insurance policy was for $2 million. The office spun. That can't be right. Marcus said it was $500,000. He helped me with all the paperwork after Dad died. He said, oh God. He said we'd use the $80,000 for the house and invest the rest for Emma's college fund. Did you ever see bank statements for that investment account? Marcus handled all our finances. He said it was easier that way. David's jaw tightened. I need to make some calls. Maria will get you some coffee and something to eat. Do not leave this office. He stood and walked out, phone already to his ear. I sat there shaking. $2 million. My father had left me $2 million, and Marcus had stolen it. Maria brought coffee and a sandwich from the deli next door. I ate mechanically, tasting nothing, while David made call after call in the next room. I could see him through the glass wall, pacing, gesturing, his expression growing darker. He came back an hour later with another man, younger, in his 30s, carrying a laptop. Elena, this is Tom Webster, forensic accountant. Tom, this is Richard's daughter. Tom sat down and opened his laptop. Ms. Morrison, I need you to give me access to any bank accounts, credit cards, or financial documents you can remember, even if they're closed. Even if you think there's nothing there. I gave him everything. Login credentials, account numbers, old statements I'd kept in my email. He typed rapidly, pulling up screen after screen of information. After 20 minutes, he sat back. Well, this is going to be easy to prove. What did you find? I asked. Your husband has been systematically stealing from you for 5 years. The life insurance money, your personal savings, even the joint account. He's been moving money out in small increments to avoid detection. It all went into an account in the Cayman Islands in his name only. How much? My voice was barely a whisper. Tom met my eyes. Including appreciation and investment gains, approximately $7 million. The room went silent. There's more. Tom continued. He transferred the house deed to his name only 3 months ago using a forged quitclaim. He's been preparing for this divorce for at least 18 months. What about Patricia Reeves? David asked. Tom pulled up another screen. The marriage counselor. She's been receiving payments from Marcus's Cayman account. $5,000 a month for the past year. Paid for fabricating the mental health documentation. I thought I'd cried all my tears over the past few days, but apparently I had more. They came now, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of rage. I want him destroyed, I said quietly. Him and Patricia. I want them to lose everything the way they tried to make me lose everything. David and Tom exchanged glances. Elena, David said carefully. There's something else else you need to know. About your father. He pulled out another file, this one thick with documents. Your father didn't just leave you life insurance money. He left you a trust fund. A trust. He never mentioned a trust. He set it up when you were born, but with very specific instructions. It was designed to remain hidden unless certain conditions were met. Specifically, if you ever faced financial hardship or divorce, if your spouse ever tried to take assets that were rightfully yours. I don't understand. David slid a document across the desk. Elena, your father was a very wealthy man. He made his money in tech investments in the 90s. He lived modestly, but he wanted to protect you. This trust has been growing for 34 years. I looked at the number on the page. 47 million. That's not possible. It's very possible. And it's been sitting in a secure trust, managed by my firm, waiting for you to need it. Your father specified that if you were happily married and financially stable, you'd never know about it. He didn't want money to change your life or your relationships. But if you ever needed protection, it would be there. I thought about my father, about the quiet, gentle man who'd taught me to ride a bike and helped me with my homework and walked me down the aisle at my wedding. He'd known. Somehow, he'd known that someday I might need protecting. There was a letter in the file with my name on it in his handwriting. David handed it to me. He wrote this when he set up the trigger conditions for the trust. That was 3 years before he died. My hands shook as I opened it. My dearest Elena, if you're reading this, then something has gone very wrong, and I'm sorry I'm not there to help you through it. But I want you to know that I've always known how strong you are, even when you don't see it yourself. The money in this trust is yours. It was always yours. I built it for you, protected it for you, hid it away until you needed it because I know how the world works. I know how easily someone with bad intentions can destroy someone with a good heart. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for using this money to protect yourself. Don't let anyone convince you that you don't deserve it. You are my daughter, and you are worth so much more than anyone who would hurt you could ever understand. Be strong, be smart, and know that even though I'm gone, I'm still protecting you. With all my love, Dad. I pressed the letter to my chest and sobbed. David Chen handed me tissues and gave me time. When I could finally speak, I said, "What do I do now?" David smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of a lawyer who was about to go to war. "Now," he said, "we make them pay." It took 2 weeks to build the case. 2 weeks in which David put me up in a hotel suite, gave me money for clothes and food, and had Tom Webster dig into every financial record Marcus had ever touched. What we found was even worse than the theft of my inheritance. Marcus had been embezzling from his company. Small amounts at first, then larger as he'd grown confident. Over the past 3 years, he'd stolen nearly 800,000 from his employer, funneling it through shell companies to his Cayman account. He'd planned to blame it on a coworker if it was ever discovered. Patricia Reeves had been filing insurance claims for sessions we never had, pocketing the money. She diagnosed me with conditions I didn't have, prescribed medications I didn't need, all to build her case against me while committing insurance fraud. And they'd done all of this while planning to take Emma away from me permanently. "We have 2 options," David said when all the evidence was compiled. "We can go to the police first, let them handle the criminal charges, then deal with the divorce. Or we can handle the divorce first and use the criminal evidence as leverage. What do you recommend?" "I recommend we destroy them in civil court first. Take everything they have, make them pay for what they did to you. Then we hand the evidence over to the district attorney and let them face criminal charges with no money for lawyers." I thought about Marcus's face when he told me I was worth nothing, about Patricia's concerned expression while she documented my supposed mental illness, about the rain in the boxes and the 4 days sleeping in my car. "Let's do it your way," I said. The first confrontation happened in a conference room at David's firm. Marcus and his lawyer arrived looking confident, probably expecting me to be broken, ready to accept whatever crumbs they offered. Instead, they found me in a navy suit, sitting next to David Chen, with Tom Webster and his laptop at the ready. Marcus stopped when he saw me. For just a second, I saw confusion flicker across his face. I looked different. I looked strong, and he couldn't understand how that was possible. "Shall we begin?" David said pleasantly. Marcus's lawyer, a woman named Jennifer Holbrook who charged $600 an hour, sat down. "I assume you're here to discuss settlement terms. My client is willing to be generous?" "How generous?" I asked. My voice was steady. "We're prepared to offer $30,000 instead of $20, but only if you sign today and agree to supervised visitation of no more than 4 hours per week." David laughed, actually laughed. "Ms. Holbrook, I think you're confused about who has leverage in this situation." He nodded to Tom, who turned the laptop around so they could see the screen. "Financial records, transaction histories, the Cayman account." "What is this?" Marcus said, but his voice was already shaking. "This," David said pleasantly, unpleasantly, is proof of 5 years of financial fraud, theft, and embezzlement. You've stolen $7 million from your wife, odd $800,000 from your employer, and conspired with Dr. Patricia Reeves to commit insurance fraud while fabricating mental health records. Jennifer Holbrook was speed, reading through the documents. Her face went pale. This is private. Obtained completely legally through forensic accounting with proper authorization. Every transaction documented. Every theft time stamped. We also have recording evidence that we're prepared to provide to both the district attorney and to your client's employer. What recording? Marcus's voice was nearly a whisper. David pressed play on the tablet. Marcus's voice filled the room, crystal clear. A phone call he'd made to Patricia 3 months ago, discussing how they'd finally be free once they got rid of Alana and split the money. They talked about the fake documentation, about timing the divorce, about making sure I ended up with nothing. Marcus had made the call from his office, recorded automatically by his company's phone system. Tom had obtained it through a subpoena 2 days ago. Here are our terms, David said into the silence that followed. You will sign over full custody of Emma to Alina, with child support of $5,000 per month. You will return all stolen funds, both the inheritance money and the embezzled funds from your company. You will pay Elena's legal fees, and you will leave the state. And if I don't, Marcus tried to sound strong, but it came out weak. Then we file criminal charges today. You'll be arrested for embezzlement, fraud, and theft. You'll lose your job, your professional license, any hope of future employment. You'll spend the next 5 to 10 years in prison. And Emma will know that her father is a thief who tried to steal her mother's inheritance and frame her mother as mentally unstable. Marcus looked at his lawyer. She was already packing her briefcase. I'm withdrawing as counsel, Jennifer said. Marcus, you need a criminal defense attorney, not a divorce lawyer. I can't help you with this. She left. Marcus sat there alone, staring at the evidence of his own crimes displayed on the laptop. Then he looked at me. Elena, please, we can work this out. Think about Emma. Think about our family. The same words he'd used before. But this time, I was the one with power. I am thinking about Emma, I said quietly. I'm thinking about the daughter you tried to take from me. The daughter you told couldn't call me. The daughter you planned to use as leverage while you stole my inheritance and framed me as crazy. I love her. You love yourself. That's all you've ever loved. Sign the papers, Marcus. Be grateful I'm not having you arrested today. He signed. 2 days later, we held the same kind of meeting with Patricia Reeves. David presented the evidence of insurance fraud, the payments from Marcus, the fabricated medical records. Patricia tried to defend herself at first. Those were my professional medical opinions. Based on what? Tom interrupted. Based on sessions you billed for but never conducted. Based on symptoms you documented that Alina never exhibited. Based on the $60,000 you received from her husband while conducting couples therapy. Patricia went silent. The psychology board will receive our complaint tomorrow, David said. We'll lose your license. We're also filing a civil suit for damages. But if you want to avoid criminal prosecution for fraud, you'll cooperate fully in the investigation of Marcus Morrison. She cooperated, but I wasn't finished with either of them. The next confrontation came 3 weeks later. David had filed an emergency motion to modify custody, armed with all the evidence of Marcus's fraud and Patricia's complicity. The hearing was set for a Tuesday morning. Marcus showed up with a new lawyer, a tired-looking public defender named Frank who'd been assigned to his case. The Cayman accounts had been frozen. His employer had fired him and filed charges. He'd lost everything already, but this hearing would determine if he'd lose Emma too. I hadn't seen my daughter in nearly 6 weeks. The supervised visitation Marcus had promised never materialized. He'd violated the custody order immediately, and David had documented every instance. The judge was a woman in her 50s named Sandra Brennan, with sharp eyes and no patience for games. Marcus's lawyer tried to argue that I was still unstable, that the financial issues were a misunderstanding, that Emma was bonded with her father. Then David stood up. Your Honor, I'd like to call Emma Morrison to the stand. My heart stopped. We'd agreed not to involve Emma, to keep her out of the courtroom drama, but David caught my eye and nodded slightly. Trust me. The bailiff opened the rear door, and Emma walked in, my 8-year-old daughter, in a purple dress, holding a tablet. Ms. Morrison, Judge Brennan said gently. You don't have to be here if you don't want to. I want to be here, Emma said. Her voice was small but firm. I have something to show. She walked to the witness stand. The bailiff helped her into the chair and gave her a booster so she could reach the microphone. Emma, David said kindly. Can you tell the judge what you have on that tablet? It's a video, Emma said. Of Daddy and Dr. Patricia. Marcus half stood. Your Honor, my daughter has been coached. Sit down, Judge Brennan said sharply. Emma, can you tell me where this video came from? I recorded it, Emma said. Daddy didn't know I had Mommy's old phone. She gave it to me for games before Daddy made her leave. But I didn't tell him I still had it. Emma looked at me then, her eyes full of tears. I heard them talking about Mommy, saying mean things, so I turned on the camera. When was this? The judge asked. 5 days after Mommy left. Daddy brought Dr. Patricia to our house. They were in the living room, and I was supposed to be asleep, but I heard them. David took the tablet and connected it to the courtroom display. Your Honor, I'd like to play this recording. The judge nodded. The video quality was shaky. Emma had clearly been hiding, possibly at the top of the stairs, but the audio was perfect. Marcus's voicey. She's actually gone. I can't believe how easy this was. Patricia's voicey. I told you the mental health angle would work. No judge questions a therapist's clinical documentation. Marcus. And she has no idea about the offshore account. Even if she somehow gets a lawyer, it's untraceable. Patricia. What about Emma? What if she asks about her mother? Marcus. She'll forget eventually. Kids are resilient. In 6 months, she won't even remember Alina clearly. The courtroom was dead silent. On the screen, you could hear Emma's sharp intake of breath from her hiding place at the top of the stairs. Patricia. You're sure the inheritance money is secure? Marcus. 2 million, completely hidden. Elena signed everything over to me for estate planning years ago without reading it. She's always been too trusting. Too stupid. Really? They both laughed. The video continued. They discussed how they'd move to California once the divorce was final. How they'd use my father's money to buy a house in San Diego. How Emma would go to private school. How I'd eventually give up trying to see her. And if she doesn't give up, Patricia asked, then we have the documentation that she's mentally unstable. We'll make sure she never gets unsupervised access. Eventually, she'll just be the crazy woman who used to be Emma's mom. More laughter. The video ended. Emma was crying silently in the witness stand. I was crying. Half the courtroom was crying. Judge Brennan's face was stone. Her Mr. Morrison. She said, her voice like ice. Stand up. Marcus stood, his face gray. In my 20 years on the bench, I have never seen anything as calculated and cruel as what I just witnessed. You not only stole from your wife, not only conspired to falsely document her as mentally ill, but you planned to permanently separate a mother from her daughter and make that daughter believe her mother abandoned her. Your Honor, I'm not finished. Custody is immediately and permanently awarded to Elena Morrison. You are ordered to pay child support in the amount of $7,000 per month. You will have no visitation rights whatsoever until such time as Emma herself requests contact with you and a therapist deems it appropriate. Given that you plan to make her forget her mother exists, I find it unlikely that will happen anytime soon. Marcus's knees buckled. His lawyer caught his arm. Furthermore, Judge Brennan continued, I am ordering that complete copies of all evidence presented today be sent to the District Attorney's Office for criminal prosecution. This court hereby grants Elena Morrison a restraining order against you and against Patricia Reeves. Neither of you are to come within 500 yards of Elena or Emma. She looked at Patricia, who was trying to sink into her chair. Dr. Reeves, you may not have been a party to this custody hearing, but you are present in this courtroom, and I suggest you get a very good lawyer. I will be personally reporting you to the State Psychology Board. Judge Brennan's expression softened as she looked at Emma. Young lady, you are incredibly brave. You protected your mother when no one else could. I hope you know how special that is. Emma nodded, tears streaming down her face. Can I see my mommy now? She whispered. Yes, sweetheart. You can see your mommy right now? Emma scrambled down from the witness stand and ran to me. I caught her in my arms and held her so tight, breathing in her strawberry shampoo, feeling her small body shake with sobs. I'm sorry, Mommy, she cried. I'm sorry I couldn't show you sooner. Daddy took my tablet and my computer and I didn't know how to. Shh, baby, you didn't do anything wrong. You were so brave. You were so brave. Behind us, security was escorting Marcus and Patricia from the courtroom. Marcus was begging, pleading, but the bailiffs moved him along. Patricia was silent, her career and life in ruins. I didn't watch them go. I held my daughter and cried tears of relief and joy and rage and love all mixed together. We were going home. 3 months later, on a Saturday morning in early fall, Emma and I sat on the porch of our new house. Not the house Marcus had stolen. I'd let him keep that pile of bad memories. This was our house in a different neighborhood with a big backyard and a swing set and a room for Emma painted in her favorite purple. The $7 million Marcus had stolen had been returned, plus interest and penalties. The offshore accounts had been seized. Marcus was awaiting trial for embezzlement and fraud, facing 8 to 12 years in prison. His parents had stopped calling me to plead his case after I sent them a copy of the recording Emma had made. Patricia Reeves had lost her license, her practice, and faced her own fraud charges. Last I heard, she was working retail and living with her mother. The psychology board had been so appalled by her case that they'd implemented new oversight procedures for therapists who provide legal testimony in custody cases. The trust fund my father had left me sat secure in David Chen's management, growing steadily. I'd used some of it to set up a foundation foundation in my dad's name that provided legal aid to women in divorce situations similar to mine. Women whose husbands controlled the money, who were being gaslit and documented as unstable, who needed someone to believe them. I'd gone back to school, too. My teaching certification had been renewed, and I'd start teaching 3rd grade after the new year. Not because I needed the money, I didn't, not anymore, but because I'd missed it. Missed having something that was mine, a purpose beyond being someone's wife or mother. Emma was thriving. We'd found her an excellent therapist, one David had vetted thoroughly, who was helping her process everything that had happened. She still had nightmares sometimes, still worried that someone would take me away again, but she was laughing more, playing with friends, being a kid again. This morning, we were making pancakes together, flour in her hair and batter on the counter, when she said, "Mommy, did you know Daddy sent me a letter?" My hand stilled on the mixing bowl. What? His lawyer sent it to David's office. David sent it to Dr. Sarah, and she read it with me yesterday. Dr. Sarah Patel, Emma's therapist. I made a mental note to thank her for handling it before bringing it to me. What did it say? Emma shrugged, focused on measuring vanilla extract. He said he was sorry, that he made mistakes, that he hopes someday I'll want to see him again. And what do you think about that? She was quiet for a moment, pouring vanilla into the bowl. I think he's only sorry because he got caught. Dr. Sarah says that's okay to think. She says I don't have to forgive people just because they say sorry. My brilliant, perceptive daughter. Dr. Sarah is right. Will you be mad if someday I want to see him? I knelt down so we were eye level. Emma, I will never be mad at you for your feelings. If you want to see your dad someday, we'll figure that out together, okay? But only if you want to, and only when you're ready. No one will ever force you to do anything you don't want to do. She hugged me, getting flour on both of us. I don't want to see him. Not now. Maybe not ever. Is that mean? No, baby. That's protecting yourself. That's being strong. We finished making pancakes, ate them with too much syrup, and spent the afternoon raking leaves in the backyard. Simple things, normal things, the kind of things I'd been too afraid to enjoy when I was always walking on eggshells around Marcus. That evening, after Emma was asleep, I sat on the porch with a cup of tea and thought about everything that had happened. The betrayal, the rain, the desperation, the discovery of my father's trust, the fight, the victory. I'd learned so much about strength I didn't know I had, about trusting my instincts when everyone told me I was imagining things, about the importance of having something that's yours, money, a career, identity that no one can take away. I'd learned that love should never make you smaller, that a partner who truly cares for you doesn't want you dependent and powerless, that making yourself vulnerable to someone is a gift, and when they abuse that gift, the failing is theirs, not yours. I'd learned that rock bottom is real, and it's terrifying, but sometimes you have to hit it before you can find your way back up. And I'd learned that my father, even in death, was still protecting me, still making sure I'd be okay. His trust fund wasn't just money, it was a message. You are worth protecting. You deserve good things. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. If you're listening to this story, wherever you are, and you see yourself in it, if you're the one being controlled, being gaslighted, being told you're worthless or crazy or too much or not enough, please know this. You are not imagining it. Your feelings are valid, and there is a way out. It might not be a secret trust fund. It might be a friend or a family member or a shelter or a legal aid office, but there is help. There is hope. You don't have to stay in the rain. You are stronger than you know. You are worth more than anyone who tries to diminish you could ever understand. And you deserve a life where you don't have to shrink yourself to fit into someone else's idea of who you should be. I deserve better than Marcus. Emma deserved better than a father who would steal from her mother and plan to make her forget I existed. And we have better now. The house is quiet, peaceful. Emma is safe upstairs, dreaming whatever 8-year-olds dream about, probably unicorns and hamsters, since she's still lobbying for that pet. Tomorrow, we'll go to the farmer's market and then to her friend Sophia's birthday party. Normal weekend things. Beautiful, boring, peaceful, normal things. I'm not the woman I was 6 months ago. That woman was afraid all the time. That woman accepted crumbs and called it love. That woman believed she was worthless because someone cruel told her she was. I'm not that woman anymore. I am Alina Morrison, daughter of Richard Sawyer, mother of Emma, survivor, fighter, and I am finally, truly home, not in a house, though I love this house, but home within myself, home in my own strength, home in the knowledge that I don't need anyone else to complete me or validate me or give me permission to exist. I am enough, exactly as I am, and so are you. Did you like the story, and which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story with love and respect.